Hi, everyone. Welcome to Savvy Talk Podcast. Today, I'm here with Mike from NPJ Sports Complex. Hey, Mike. How are you doing today?
Savvy, I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So what is your role on this gym?
That's a good question. I think the short answer of that would be I'm responsible for everything volleyball related. So the title that we came up with is Director of Volleyball. And I try to stay out of most of the behind the scenes work and focus mainly on player and coach development.
I love that. How do you build connections with your athletes?
Well, it's something I work on all the time. I try to learn everyone's name. When I first meet somebody, when they come into the gym, I think that something that really stands out to me is, when people say that the best sound to somebody is the sound of their own name, hearing their own name. So I think that it's a really great place to start by introducing myself, asking every player who comes to our door, hey, who are you? What's your name? Where are you from? And then really being intentional about remembering their name so that I can call them by their name, either in passing, before their practices start, or if it's at a camp or clinic. I want to make sure that, before I do any coaching and giving any feedback on their skill or their performance, I want to make sure that I at least know their name first and who I'm working with.
I actually remember that from my 14th year when I came in. I remember feeling so special, like I definitely did something because my name was remembered. I was like, I went home and I told my mom, I was like, oh my God, he said my name. Like he knows who I am. And it was just such an exciting moment. And it like made me want to come back, and I felt like so included in that. And I loved that because I was like, I have a connection with someone. Now I feel comfortable in this environment. I think that's what's so different about MPJ compared to like other places that I've been is you get to know the people, but not just on a hey, I know you kind of thing, but like in a family kind of way. Like if I see someone out in public from MPJ, I'm going to say hi to them. In other ways, I might not say hi because I get really nervous, but I feel like comfortable around MPJ people, especially the staff. So.
Yeah. Well, I love that story. And I hope that every kid that comes through will have a similar experience, or even if not, if they go home and they don't share it with their family or friends, hopefully just that surprise of, oh my gosh, this coach, there's 85 people, other kids in the gym, there's a low expectation that on a first pass, a coach will, remember their name.
Yeah.
But no, that's something that's really important to me, and not something that I started with. I've been coaching for almost 25 years now in volleyball. And in those early years, it's just so quick to, go into fix-it mode. I'm the coach. They're here to be trained. And I think I really kind of missed the importance and the value of making that connection first before anything else.
So you said you've been here for about 25 years. What got you into volleyball?
Yeah, well, I've been coaching for 25 years, but here in Oregon and with MPJ, I started in January of 2017.
Okay.
So I think 8 years, 9 years? I don't know.
8 years? Yeah.
8 years. Okay. But what got me started in coaching, I think that something that really stands out to me is during my childhood, my youth, team sports, I was consistently voted like most inspirational player on the team. And even the people that I competed with or teammates, they would always say I just had a way of motivating them or inspiring them to work harder, whatever it is. So I think naturally wanting to coach, wanting to help, wanting to give back, wanting to teach. I would say I was never the best player at any one position, but I knew how to make people feel comfortable and loose and confident and, supported and encouraged. So I think that those things just being kind of natural for me. When I first started coaching, it just really felt like this was something that was fun. It didn't really feel like work.
Do you also try to look for those kinds of people in like your athletes? Like the people who...
Maybe if I'm focusing on trying to put together my team, the assistant coach for NPJ 18 Forefront, and I do spend a lot of time evaluating players and getting to know, what their reputation is, what my experience is like when I interact with in conversation or coaching. I think I look for certain things like that, but on a larger scale, no. I think we try to make NPJ a place where volleyball really is meant for everybody, and whatever an athlete or an individual is going to bring to the table, whatever it is that makes them special, whatever it is that is their unique strength, we can use that. We can build around that. So I would say no. We're not looking for certain people or characteristics. We think that everyone can be themselves, and if you're loud and rah and that's you, and that helps you play better and makes everyone around you better, then great. If you're more a quiet, more reserved, that fierce inner competitive fire doesn't really show outwardly, that's okay too. So yeah.
So I did mention that 2009 was my birthday, but a little birdie told me your birthday just came up. How does it feel to be 40?
Yeah, well, I still got some going there. It feels great actually. The week leading up to it, I was a little nervous, but when people say age is just a number, I think that's true. And I've got a lot of people around me who make me feel young and old on a regular basis. So yeah, it really was exciting. And the main thing was I felt the love and the support from all my friends and coworkers and a bunch of the athletes who, sent me a text or got me a card or decorated my office, which was a nice surprise.
Yeah, that's super nice. If NPJ, like the business overall, had a playbook, what would be the first 3 plays?
Great question. I think for me, the first thing that really does come to mind is fun. I think that we want all of our success, well, not just want, a lot of our success, the things that Adam and I both personally feel are some of our biggest accomplishments as NPJ coaches. We've really done it by creating a fun, loose, confident, Adam would say focused fun, that kind of a thing. And I think that at least for our team and our staff, I think it would always start with, if we're having fun out there, then we're going to have a great chance at being at our best. Mm-hmm. I think the second thing that comes to mind, I think hard work and effort for sure. Our philosophy has evolved over the years, and one thing that I've learned from, the last few years of working with really high level and committed players, I've noticed that the hard work and the effort, the intensity, all of that just comes out naturally. It was something that early in my career, I felt like either I needed to instill those kinds of traits or I needed to, push people, maybe break them down a little bit and build them back up. It's kind of a traditional old school way of coaching. And what I've noticed is the game of volleyball is so much fun to play. Mm-hmm. And when you're allowing players to go out there, compete and play, naturally it has a way of drawing out all of the things that you hope to see in every athlete. And the cool thing about that is, as I started to pay attention to that more and notice that more, really started to believe that all of that probably already exists in every athlete who comes to the gym. Now it's just a matter of, letting that come out naturally with the way that they are engaging with the sport. And you want a third.
You got this.
Okay.
More.
Third play. I think the third play is, I'd mentioned kind of an old school traditional way of coaching, and we've really moved away from that. And, I think what we believe is if you can get athletes to just use their vision, use their perception, use their, if they can't see, we talked about today in our clinic, the idea of echolocation.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to get at is we want kids playing the game that's out there in front of them, not playing a game that's designed or built inside their head. What I mean by that is instead of swinging at the ball the way that you're supposed to, or the way that in your head you feel like you want to perform a certain skill, that often can get in the way of really great performances. So what I would say is, when I'm working with players, I'll teach them something. I'll say, hey, this is maybe what you're supposed to do, but what you actually end up doing out there on the court in the moment might be very different. And to get the most performance out of our players and out of ourselves, we want to let it happen in more live, interactive way, as opposed to feeling like there's restrictions on, am I doing this the right way or not?
Mm-hmm. I think the theme of things lately, I've felt like a lot of it is just reality. And I feel like that has brought up a lot of things out of athletes is like, okay, if I have to aim towards this ball or whatever, and I'm not always going to get the perfect angle on it, like I might have to do something funky, but if it's up and where it needs to be, that's fine. So it's like the reality of situations, like the authenticity of the passes or of the sets or of the hits or whatever skill it is, like moving to it and just like getting it up. And I feel like you've talked a lot about that recently, is like it's more about the effort than the perfection of it. Like, yeah. And I really like that's helped me a lot, especially on sometimes I struggle with serve receive. And I feel like that has like pushed me out of my shell. I've gotten so much better at serve receive because I've gotten out of my comfort zone, out of that perfectionism, and just like getting there, just getting to the ball. And I think you've helped me so much in that with our like privates and with practices, everything that we do. I feel like I've been able to get to it and became just such a better player than what I was before. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And as I hear you telling your story there, I can confirm that. Hearing the way you worded things when I was watching you even today, but yeah, in all of our recent workouts together, I can see exactly what you're describing, and it's been really cool to watch you add layers and add layers to your game. It's not easy to do that, but with your hard work and dedication, it seems easier as a coach working with players that work hard, and are willing to kind of go outside their comfort zone like you are. So
thank you. I appreciate that. If NPJ had a mascot, what would it be and why?
Okay. I'll just speak for myself. I think it would be a goose.
What? A goose?
Yeah. There's obviously a story behind that, but there's this thing out there, and maybe you've even read it before. It's like 5 lessons in geese, or 5 lessons from geese. And when you read I don't know if it's a story or a poem or whatever, but when you read the 5 lessons, they're really applicable to team sports, and like one of them is, now I'm putting myself on the spot, speaking of how important this is. One of the lessons was like, you take turns leading, so when geese are flying and migrating, the one at the front has the hardest job. and they're flying into the most amount of wind resistance. And so they take turns with the heavy lifting, but then also the ones that are falling behind, who are having easier time flying, when you hear them honking, when they fly by you, that's actually, they say anyway, it's support and it's encouragement for the one who's, doing the heavy lifting, leading out front. And so when I think about our team and I tell that story, we read it together as a group, it's like your role in any match can change. Certainly there's captains and leaders on the team, but they're going to get tired too, so if you're the one that's meant to follow, giving them that encouragement and that support can make that job more manageable for them to keep pushing through.
So along those lines, with the geese out there, if volleyball had a Super Bowl, who would you hire for halftime?
Like in between sets, like a intermission halftime show. Who would I hire?
Yeah, this is like personal preference.
I would probably hire Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, because it's so entertaining.
I love that.
And a few years back, the Super Bowl had Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and right before all of these amazing rock star musicians and performers, right before I knew who was coming out on stage for the halftime show, I was saying to Adam, said, "Oh my gosh, the halftime show, these things are never good."
Yeah.
Never. And
was it good that year?
It ended up being like the best halftime show ever, up there with the best ones of all time. But yeah, I think even right after we watched it, Adam looks at me and goes, "I don't know, Mike, that one was pretty good." And the internet the next day said it was like the greatest halftime show ever. So Snoop Dogg and company.
I love that. I actually am a big Snoop Dogg fan, so it's funny that you say that. How does NPJ differentiate itself from other businesses in the area?
Like local businesses or like other volleyball
just
clubs?
like other volleyball clubs.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know a lot about the other clubs in terms of how they operate from a business side, also from just a gym culture side of things. But I think some things over the years that, within our own staff, some of the things that we talk about, one example would be, should we require players to wear the same practice shirt every night at practice? Now, some teams will do that. They want to coordinate, and I support that. But from director's perspective, I really want kids to wear whatever they want to practice, and I think you only get a couple shirts at the start of the season. So if you're in the gym 4 days a week, coming in and getting extra reps, you might not have another NPJ shirt to wear. So, it's things like that. We want kids to come in here and be themselves. We want kids to feel like they aren't being told what to do all of the time. And, I think in our everyday life, so I'm even thinking about Adam's daughter, my goddaughter, she's going to be turning 3 soon. But even talking with her, you can tell that she's getting tired of always being told what to do. And I think that's something that sticks with us forever, So the nature of sports, you're often working with athletes, and the coach or whoever's in charge, has all this power, and you just have to do whatever the coach says. I think that's something that we've really spent a lot of time trying to build a culture where it's less that, and it's more everyone. We want to hear what everyone thinks. There's this phrase that really stuck with me as we were growing the club. A lot of the decisions at the time were starting with Adam, and then when he hired me as his number 2, then it was like Adam and I were the only 2 in the room talking about what we're going to do next. And a lot of the time I found myself saying, Adam, I don't know what the right answer to this is. And there's got to be a right answer. I don't know what it is necessarily, but here's what I think. And as things really started to grow, I think we both learned that what we wanted to do was not necessarily be the person who was right, but to make sure that, everybody that we had available to share their thoughts and opinions on things, we just want to make sure that when we make this decision that we get it right. And so that means, the idea that none of us is as smart as all of us. If you're a yes person, you might, and you're going to say yes to everything that I say or everything that Adam says, you might not really be the kind of person who can help us grow the business in the way that we want it to or in the way that it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
The confidence that people have to say something contrary to what the directors are saying can be a very tough and intimidating thing. And even for me, when I was in my late 20s and I was coaching college volleyball at the time, I dealt with that. I was a hired, paid assistant on the staff, and it was really scary whenever I felt like I had an opinion that was different than what he was thinking.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned through that experience was, and he even called me out on it too. I would say like, hey, honestly, it's your program, so whatever you want to do. And he would always stop me right away and say, no. I want to know exactly what you're thinking so I can consider whether or not your perspective, if different than mine, is going to change how I feel about where I currently stand. And that was a big, that was a really, I guess, big moment in my coaching career. And I never thought of myself as like a business person, but certainly when I came to work with Adam, it was just him at the time. So naturally, I became part of, this business thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I want to always create a culture where, if we have a bunch of people in the room, it's like, hey, let's all empty our pockets. Let's put everything on the table and see what we got.
Mm-hmm.
And once we have everything, then we can work together to then figure out like, all right, what do we need to use? What direction are we going?
Like, I feel like when I walk into MPJ, I can just be like, this feels welcoming. I feel like I belong here. And I feel like that goes to show for like everyone that I met, like here, if I talk about MPJ outside of things, it's not like, oh, I'm dreading going to practice tonight. It's like, oh, yay, are you ready for practice tonight?
Yeah.
Or like, are you going to this clinic? Like, who all am I going to see here? You're excited to be here. Whether, like, if I go somewhere else, I've been to a lot of different places in the area, outside the area. Sometimes those environments just aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like you're walking in and you're scared to ask for a pepper partner. You're scared to step into things, be the example. I feel like at NPJ Salem specifically, you can walk in, know that you might not do everything perfectly, but you're not going to be judged for it. And I love that as like an environment. It just feels welcoming to every type of person. I've never heard anything like against that. Like,
well, I appreciate, I really appreciate you saying those things, because it's good feedback for us. That's something that in competitive sports, a lot of clubs are much smaller than we are. We have 20-something teams here every year. We have over 80, when you combine all of our 4 locations.
Yeah.
So we are a very big club.
Yeah.
And when you're operating at that scale, not everybody that comes in to your program is going to have the same interest level or goals for, say, being recruited to play in college or wanting to go pro one day. Maybe every kid has that dream if they really love the sport when they're young, but things change. And as you get older, what I realized is if we wanted to be a club that was going to support any athlete at any level of commitment and interest, we had to make sure that when they walk into the gym, we start with, A, their name, but B, like, what are your goals? Why are you here? What are you here for? The social aspects of things? Are you here for just maybe this is your second or third sport, not your primary sport. And, I certainly started in the club coaching world where, we had 13 or 14 teams, 2 per age group, and that was it. It was like, if you weren't here to be the very best, if you weren't here to pursue absolute mastery in your technique and your skill and your performance, and this was not the place for you. And, that works, but only for a small set of people who have those kinds of goals. If they don't, when you're not going to build a team for them or build a community or space or support for them in those areas. So, whatever you want out of this sport, we want to help you achieve that.
You brought recruitment up. How do you help athletes with their commitment?
Commitment for college, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I do the best that I can to,
Or how do you and Adam help athletes?
It really is Adam. Adam is the guy that is, he tells people that his whole point behind NPJ and starting the club was to help athletes get into college to play volleyball.
Yeah.
And so to this day, with as much as his job has changed behind the scenes as the executive director, he still makes himself available to meet with any and all players in our club who want help with their college recruitment. He will call coaches, he will text coaches, he will email coaches. If there are any college coaches out there that he doesn't know, he will reach out and establish that connection so that, like I said, any athlete who wants to play at the next level in college is going to get an opportunity to do so. And I really I admire how, that could be a full-time job on its own. I mean, there are recruiting services on a very large scale that are out there for that. It does take up a lot of time. And for someone who is as busy as he is, he still manages to meet with every individual athlete who wants help for college recruiting.
During like these plays and stuff, I feel like you get so what the heck?
Nice catch. Good
Get
hands.
so into it. Thank you. Get so into it, or you're like, yes, good up. And then when you're talking, you're like, the force of the ball. When this ball meets this ball.
We've been talking a lot of physics lately, that's for sure.
Yes. Lots of. I feel like I really needed to catch up on physics and science and stuff. I learned more about it here than I feel like I did at school. I feel like that's a very Mike thing to do. Is that piece of it where 1 second like you're like, yes, that was it, and then the next second we're like,
that's how that's my natural. When I'm making those noises, and a lot of the coaches, if I'm sitting watching a match, even this last weekend, someone was sitting next to me saying how much they enjoy just hearing my commentary and listening to that. Also the sounds, that I make while I'm watching. So I just get very into it. And, it's more fun to watch volleyball when you're just letting yourself be absorbed into the action.
Thank you so much for joining us. How could people reach you if they wanted to be part of NPJ?
Yeah, you can go to our website, if people still do that, npjvolleyball.com. And if you're on social media, Instagram, just NPJ Volleyball. And then from there, you should be able to find contact information for each location's program directors.
And if you're on YouTube, click the link above. Thank you so much for joining us on Savvy Talk.